This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and news around the NHL. On tonight's show, we have a lot of Hawks news and a little bit of Wings news. The Blackhawks have had a huge week for their organization, monetarily speaking, player staff speaking, development speaking. There is a lot to talk about on the Blackhawks side of this podcast this week. The Wings content will run it a little bit late. A couple pieces to note for the Red Wings. We're going to be talking about Philip Zadina, just the fact that two-way player, he is continuing to impress at that play style. The fact that Albert Johansson is also putting up a very good stat sheet, given the fact that he's on pace to develop into a very competent NHLer. And also, we're going to talk about Dylan Larkin's captaincy with the Red Wings and just sort of compare it to some of the other players in the NHL who are sort of in that, young captain position that these young players find themselves in for rebuilding organizations, and just sort of how his situation is different from a lot of those other players. On the Blackhawks side of the podcast, we have a lot to talk about. Brent Seabrook retiring, the Chicago Blackhawks officially acquiring the Rockford Ice Hogs. What that means, just a ton for their prospect pool. The fact that they're going to be having fans back in the stands back in April, and then also the disciplinary hearing for Connor Murphy. And then after we transfer out of the Red Wings and the Blackhawks news, we're going to be talking about the fact that the NHL is potentially looking at some draft lottery changes for, the upcoming lottery. It's been under fire the past couple of years just because of how teams have jumped up, and just the fact that, these teams that haven't necessarily been tanking have not been able to get that high-end talent that they've been wanting to get, and how some teams seem to be getting the short end of the stick routinely. So just a little bit of a tweak looking at that. We're also going to be talking about the fact that, the NHL they've been finding some players this week. There have been a lot of nasty hits and dirty hits, slew foots, all sorts of stuff like that. And I think we just kind of need to have a discussion about, the fact that what is the NHL really doing to fine and punish dirty play? All of us are pretty much in agreement that, physicality is a part of the hockey, but there's that line that you cross, and at some point something has to be talked about on that level. And then we're also going to be talking about the passing of Walter Gretzky, just sort of, his role in developing and, getting Wayne Gretzky where he was at in the league and, becoming the superstar that he was in his era. But with all that being said, I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tim Stompanato, David Barnhouse, and Nick LePage. Everybody, welcome to the podcast. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Ready to talk some hockey news.
Yeah, feeling great. We have a ton on the docket to get through for the Hawks, so I'm excited about that. Excited, keep checking my phone, seeing when the Bears are going to trade for Russell Wilson, so I'm equally looking forward to that.
Go and you're going to settle with it.
Don't you dare.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, you nailed it on the head there. Dak Prescott just signed a big deal, so that's one less location. Russell Wilson is closer to being a Chicago Bear. And we're buzzing. A beautiful day in Illinois today. And I'm happy to be here. And so I can't wait to talk about the Hawks this week. Jordan, how are you doing?
I am doing good. I am hoping to potentially snag some tickets to the White Sox home opener in April and
all right.
maybe finally hit my first MLB game. So that'll be a fun one to go to. Let's go ahead and
I do got bad news about that, Jordan.
What?
They're getting rid of
Sox suck.
Well, no, they're good now.
But you're going to have to fight me on that one.
They're getting rid of Dollar Dog Wednesdays for now.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks, kid.
That was like my favorite reason to go.
That's my reason to watch baseball.
All right, sorry.
Yeah.
You just show up to the stands, like you get ready to buy the ticket, and like as you're getting ready to buy, you're like, you guys have $1 hot dogs today, right? No. Okay,
I got my dollar dog jersey.
I was gonna go Kobayashi on these things.
Oh man,
whatever happened to him? He doesn't compete anymore.
I mean, does he?
It's all about Joey Chestnut now, right?
Joey Chestnut's like the reigning champ for the last like ever.
I can't imagine that's a
MTV had like a Real World thing following Kobayashi, and he has like 3 stomachs or some crazy thing like that. He has like some weird condition. I don't know. Besides the point, dollar hot dogs is like the only reason to go to a baseball game.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm excited for.
That's cool, man.
This coming week.
yeah.
We can go ahead and talk about hockey though, because that's what we're all here to talk about ultimately.
I was going to talk about stocks again, but okay.
My
I'll save that for
AMC
next
is
week.
going back up. So listen, I'm holding on.
I've lost like $500 in the past 2 weeks. Like the market just tanked and I got screwed.
You hate to see it.
Hate to see it.
So how about that hockey?
So since we have a lot more Blackhawks news to talk about this week, I feel like we can just sort of touch on the Red Wings very quickly. So if anyone's tuning in for Red Wings content, I'm sorry. There's not a lot to talk about this week compared to the Blackhawks, because the
We'll play 2
Blackhawks
games,
organization
people.
had a lot to talk about.
Right.
But for the Wings, there are some things to talk about. First, Philip Zadina. I liked this kid when we drafted him. I liked him when he started developing, and I really like him now.
It's crazy because he's projected in the draft, and they're talking about he's a sniper. It's all he's going to be. And yet we've seen him grow and develop into this fantastic 2-way player who puts up better defensive numbers than some of the defensive players drafted in his class.
Right.
And I think, in my opinion, one reason for that is because he went straight to the Griffins, really. And he was able to kind of hone his craft and learn more and play more. Whereas I feel like if he got drafted by one of those teams ahead of us, they would have just shoved him right into the main roster. Because there's 2 teams that don't really do that. That's us and Tampa Bay. Steve Yzerman went to Tampa, and he brought that ideal over. So I think had we not drafted him, we would have seen him play in the NHL, and he'd have just been a sniper. He would not, I don't think, would have developed that game in his repertoire.
And like that's the thing. Like when the Wings drafted Zadina, I would have loved for Detroit to have put him in the NHL immediately. I would have loved to seen that. But even in the past couple of years, we've seen how that can sort of backfire. We saw it backfire with Michael Rasmussen, for example. The kid was thrown into the NHL when he was not realistically ready, and it didn't do him any favors for his development. Yeah, Michael Rasmussen looks like he's going to be a roster player moving forward, but the fact that Philip Zadina got to go play in Grand Rapids in the AHL against competent competition, but not as intense as the NHL, and where he could make those mistakes, he could learn those little habits that make you a very good 2-way player.
Yep.
Ken Holland wanted to say overripened, but I really think that year and a couple months that Detroit had him in Grand Rapids, I think that was a really good decision. And I have to applaud that development decision. It seems like it's panned out really well for him.
I felt bad at first because, like you said, I would have loved to have seen him play here. I mean, he was pissed when he dropped in the draft and said he was going to fill, nets with pucks. And then we turned around and sent him to the Griffins, and like, yes, it was a good move, but I felt bad about it because I'm like, I hope this doesn't hurt him mentally. Like he saw himself as a player playing in the NHL, and we sent him down to the Griffins, and I was like, I hope this doesn't stake him to the ground where he's not going to be able to skate his way back to the NHL. But he's proven that wrong, and he is showing a player that I never thought he'd be, and I'm very excited to see him continue to grow.
No, I mean, you made a good point about that, David, about what the Red Wings are doing, kind of like letting them, taking their time with them, and, rushing them to the NHL, that could ruin their mentality. A cold streak where they dominated in juniors or whatever league they played in before and they struggle, that really gets to their head. So every player has a different trajectory and developmental path. And I think the Red Wings are kind of doing it the right way, because what's the rush right now? You got Lucas Raymond playing really well, working on other skills in the SHL. You got Zadina, who is proving himself right now. They're taking their time with Joe Veleno. And I think it's all the right things. Let them get confident. Let them build new skills. Let them develop everything else. And they'll be more complete players rather than coming into the league as a sniper that's just going to score goals.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think there's also a lot to be said. You brought up a good point, David, about, I hope that him getting drafted and then going to Grand Rapids doesn't, affect his mentality. Development, it's a great point to point out that development is so much not just playing and conditioning and whatnot, but communication. And, one of the things that I preach in the HR world all the time is managing expectations, communicating and managing expectations. And that is something that I feel like Yzerman does really, really well. The only time that I've seen that really backfire with him is Druin, however you pronounce his name, a couple years back with Tampa. And that's just a guy that basically said, no, I don't agree with you.
Yeah, it was a lot of Druin's fault.
Yeah. But a lot of it is Yzerman saying, this is the plan. He's allowing Seider, and he allowed Zadina and all these other players to grow. And even when he brings them into the NHL, he's either managing their time. We see that a lot with Colleton in Chicago too, not thrusting guys into top 6 roles and saying, you're the future now, but saying you're going to do third line for a little bit. We're going to have you in and out of games. Finding ways to manage those expectations and do not necessarily what's right for different, focusing on development. And that's the individual player. I think that's what I was trying to say, is the individual player's development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it excites me, seeing how he's grown from that experience. What are we going to see with a Seider, with a Lucas Raymond, when definitely. They eventually work their way up? Do you think they skip the Griffins and come to the Wings, or do you think they spend some time in Grand Rapids too, like he did?
I mean, looking at Moritz Seider, I can't see him going back to Grand Rapids. That kid, he's far and away the best defenseman in Sweden right now, and it's not close.
It's dirty.
He just throws people too, which is even funnier.
I'm trying to temper expectations because I know we haven't seen him at the NHL level yet.
Yep.
But
pump the head.
His comparables are really close to Nick Lidstrom, and it's crazy that he went 6th.
Mm-hmm. If he pans out to be like a Lidstrom, oh boy.
Not even crazier that he went 6th. He wasn't even projected to be the number 1 D-man drafted that year.
Right.
No. Who was supposed to be ahead of him?
Jamie Drysdale, right?
Yeah, Jamie Drysdale got picked.
Where did Drysdale end up going again? Arizona?
He went to Anaheim.
Yeah.
Anaheim, and it was an A. Speaking of defensemen and drafting, Zadina, the guy that was supposed to be the next Lidstrom, the next generational guy, Rasmus Dahlin. I don't pay too much attention to Buffalo, and that's been weighing on me. Has he been doing well?
Buffalo's dying.
Or just Buffalo's
it's not even. I had Rasmus Dahlin on my fantasy team at the start of the year. Look, that's another team. We just talked about development and how some teams do it well. Mm-hmm. Buffalo's one of those teams that does it very poorly. Mm-hmm. They have so many top, and we're going to talk about this in our draft conversation later. They are wasting generational talent. They either get people that don't need development theoretically, and they waste them, or they have these guys that are coming in with so much raw talent but need guidance and development and
put some weight on too.
And they bungle it. Dahlin's being wasted there, and he doesn't stand a chance unless he gets traded, frankly.
Come to Detroit, Dahlin.
And that's something even really more interesting to note. I mean, we just were talking about Philip Zadina. Philip Zadina is putting up better defensive numbers than Rasmus Dahlin is.
Oh, yeah.
That's insane. As a forward, putting up better defensive numbers than a defenseman is.
You'd love to see it.
Yeah.
The other player for Detroit, I kind of want to talk about, who's been on a little bit of a hot streak, Albert Johansson. What is he? 15 points in 15 games?
11 points in 13 games is what I just read.
No, he had 14 assists or whatever it was.
Oh, so it's more now. Okay. Last I read, it was 11 points in 13 games, but you could be right too.
Regardless, the kid has been very good, been absolutely putting on a clinic. This is something the Wings need to see. We need to be seeing depth in the prospect development pool, and they're seeing it. It's Albert Johansson, it's Lucas Raymond, it's Moritz Seider, it's not even first round draft picks, guys like Jonathan Berggren. The Wings are seeing these prospect players in their pipeline who look to potentially, they may not be top 6 guys in the future, or they may not be top pair guys in the future. That's okay, though. You don't have to have every prospect become one of those. But it looks like they are doing a very good job of hitting these guys later in the draft and saying, that's going to be a depth piece in 3 or 4 years that we're going to have. And it's awesome to see Detroit having yet another one.
If he continues to grow like he's growing, where do you see him fitting on a defensive line for the Wings?
I mean, honestly, I'd be fine with him playing bottom 4. I think Moritz Seider and Philip Hronek is going to be Detroit's 1-2 punch when they're a contender.
Perfect.
Hronek is too good of an offensive defenseman, and Moritz Seider just does everything.
He'll cover for him.
Yeah, like you can't have a better pair than that. At least not unless we draft somebody like Owen Power this year and they jump over. Other than that, I would still be fine with him though in a bottom 4 defenseman role, because again, our top 2 defensive I can't call Hronek a prospect at this point, but Moritz Seider looks like he's going to be, by all accounts, a top pair defenseman, and Hronek's already there.
Sure.
And then one more thing I kind of want to talk about with the Wings is they've been rebuilding, well, quote unquote, rebuilding for realistically the past 3 or 4 years. And Dylan Larkin got given the captaincy this year. A lot of fans were thinking he should have been given it last year. It is what it is.
Yep.
There was an interesting story that came out about Jack Eichel, his captaincy with the Sabres organization. He got handed it very young in his career. I think it was the same year Connor McDavid got given the captaincy of the Oilers squad. But so anyway, you've got these young captains in the NHL, and Jack Eichel, for example, has had to deal with multiple coaching changes. He's had to be constantly talking to the media about why this team's not performing. He publicly calls out the organization for moves that they make. And Dylan Larkin has sort of been that opposite. He's had the same coaching staff for the most part. He has a really good relationship with management. And I think it's really interesting to see how different organizations handle these young captains that are in rebuilding franchises. And I have to say, good job for the Red Wings for handling Dylan Larkin very well.
Well, it's also a thing that you said. It's different organizations. The Red Wings, even though we are, rebuilding, we're still this top class management where we take care of our players. We have a great support system. We have a great staff. Not saying Buffalo's, this terrible place that abuses and beats people, but it's a dumpster fire.
Well,
like coaching changes up the wazoo. They throw people into the fire right away. Like the Wings and Tampa, like we said, are 2 organizations that don't really like throwing their rookies into the fire. They like to give them that time to develop. And I wish more organizations would learn from that, because we see the dividends it pays with the players that it develops. But Buffalo, they have their flashes, like where they look like they could finally get out of that rut. I think it was last year, the season before, where they were winning in the beginning of the year and they're doing well. And then the wheels popped off and you got that grocery cart that had the wheel that doesn't move, and you just crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to be said, because we've seen, young captains in rebuilding organizations isn't super new or unique.
Ovechkin was a young captain.
Jonathan Toews was an incredibly young captain on a still rebuilding Hawks team. Yeah, Crosby, McDavid. You look at those guys and you think about the way they handled the organizations. I look at the Hawks and Detroit both as absolute class act organizations, especially once Rocky Wirtz took over after Bill Wirtz. You can sort of, and there's plans. You can see the wheels turning. You can see management wanting to be better and putting things in place to be better. And I think that's where a Jonathan Toews, who is naturally sort of a mature leader character, or Crosby or McDavid or even Larkin, are in these positions where it's like, okay, I know where we're at. I know what the goal is to go to. And I do want to highlight, especially with Larkin and Toews specifically, they were surrounded by other veteran presences and other leadership members to help guide, so it wasn't all on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Buffalo and Eichel, and not only is he maybe not that same mentality of Larkin, Taze, McDavid, that sort of straight-laced company line kind of, we've got to do what's best for the organization kind of thing. He might be a little more freewheeling and a little more emotion driven. But he's also seeing an organization that continues to have no direction, no structure, and he doesn't really have that. He doesn't have a Keith and Seabrook. He doesn't have even an Abdelkader or Glenn, people that are able to guide him a little bit more there. He's on his own, and I'd be pissed off too if I was Eichel.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Tim, because like you said, you compare it to how Larkin and Taze were both just brought up into our organizations. They were brought up like built to succeed because it wasn't falling on all of them. Like these young captains, it wasn't just, hey, this is you. Jack Eichel was thrown into a fire, and he's
still there.
Dousing gasoline first.
Yeah, he's just expected to like carry the city of Buffalo on his shoulders. And don't get me wrong, he is a phenomenal player. Top 10 player.
Big Eichel fan. Huge Jack Eichel fan.
I think he's a top 10 player in the league all around.
Eichel could score 4 goals in a game and they'd still lose by 3.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I feel bad for him because he's in a situation where he's going to be such this dominant player. But if he doesn't get the hell out of Buffalo, he's going to be one of those players like, yeah, he was so good, but and not many people will remember. I think he needs out. And there's rumors of them like burning it down, but I don't know. He needs out.
To be fair, they did bring in the $9 million man, Jeff Skinner, to help take some of that pressure off.
Yes, Skinner.
Taylor Hall's got to feel like an idiot too, because he was like, I want to go to Buffalo to help them win. Whoa.
He went to Buffalo to pad his numbers and increase his salary outside the pandemic. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
He said, I'll be a star in Buffalo.
No, but it makes you like appreciate competency inside organizations. Because like Dylan Larkin, he wasn't thrown into a shitty situation. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a rebuilding team, but that's what happens with young captain. When you're a young captain, your team is most likely rebuilding.
Right.
So,
I'm giving him a pack of chewing gum and a 2nd-round pick for Jack Eichel.
Yeah, I mean, like even Nathan McKinnon back in the day. He was a young captain too. Like it's just these teams have to go through their struggles, but you have to have a sense of direction. And Buffalo doesn't have that. Detroit does. They're being ran by the right person. Chicago, you see what they've done obviously the past 10 years, and yeah, so it sucks for Jack Eichel, but obviously you appreciate what Dylan Larkin has gone through and what the Red Wings have surrounded him with to succeed not only as a player on the ice but as a leader.
Yep. Well, I like that you brought up Colorado with Nathan McKinnon because they've done the right things too. Like they've put the people around and they've developed and built to where they are. And they're a contender, I think, this year.
Definitely.
Last year too, I thought they could have been as well without the injuries. If they didn't have those injuries, I think they could have been a team that would have been a real force, especially with the COVID bubble stuff. But Buffalo, man, like the opportunities they have to make the right decisions. And they're just like, nope, this way.
I put Buffalo in the same boat as Arizona, where I think a big majority of their issues as teams is management and organizational structure, because it goes back to what seems to be the theme of this episode, development. You look at both of those teams and they have not only an inability, but almost an adverse skill set to developing players.
Yeah.
Guys just don't reach their full potential or they plateau way too early with both of those teams. And it's constant churn over with management, coaches, GMs. It's both of those organizations have no direction.
And like, that's the interesting thing, I think, to, compare with a guy like Eichel and Larkin, very different situations in terms of, the management group around them, but that also translates not only just on the ice and in the locker room, it translates on the financial books as well. And that's another big thing that I think a lot of people overlook. Like Dylan Larkin, when he signed his contract, I think he was just coming off of like I think it was the 30-goal season that he came off of when he signed the $6 million deal. But regardless, like for all intents and purposes, everyone in Detroit knew that Dylan Larkin was, barring something crazy, was going to be the future top line center and captain of the Detroit Red Wings. And he could have absolutely asked for, $8 million. Detroit had no other options at that point. But you know what? Management sat down with him and said, look, this is our plan moving forward. These are the pieces that we have. Would you be willing to take 6? And he took a 6x6. He could have absolutely gotten $8 million if he wanted to, and Detroit would have had their hands tied. But that extra $2 million, I mean, we kind of say it all the time on the show, but those little, like, $1 million here, $2 million here, eventually down the road, that adds up, and it adds up to meaningful players to play with.
Yeah.
And, a guy like Eichel or, McDavid, for example, are they worth the money? Yeah, but cap wise, they know that the situation they're in is not going to be a good one. So they have to get paid to, I don't want to say be miserable, but be miserable.
It reminds me of Tom Brady, like how when he was in New England, he was taking pay cuts. Like he slashed his contract to keep pieces, to bring pieces in. I'm not saying that Dylan Larkin's Tom Brady or Dylan Larkin's we're going to be challenging with the Stanley Cup this year, but he sees the bigger picture like Tom Brady did. If you want to win, you need to have the pieces around you. And if that means taking a pay cut, $6 million, like $6 million is still a lot of money. Like I'd love to get paid $6 million. But he sees the bigger picture, whereas some of these younger guys are just going to see the dollar bill signs and say, nope,
Toronto.
Toronto. True story.
It's not
They're
wrong.
just taking Nick's money too, if you guys don't remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
As he shakes his head. We can move on though, because I feel like that's pretty much it for the Wings, unfortunately, this
throw
week.
Shade at me and then just get the hell out.
Leech your back.
Listen, we brought you down low. We're about to bring you back up, okay?
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, I was like, hold on. There's a couple of things in here that I.
A couple tear jerkers coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually might cry.
So, all right, we'll start with the news that will not make you cry first. All right. The Chicago Blackhawks are in purchase of the Rockford Ice Hogs.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone who doesn't understand what this means, the Rockford Ice Hogs are an AHL club. Usually teams have an affiliation with a team in the AHL. They say, hey, we want to partner with you guys. We're going to send you our draft, like our prospects. You'll be playing them. And, they have like a coach and all that in place. And while, yes, they do have to, collaborate with that NHL club, the club does not have full control over the roster or, the management of the team. Chicago owning Rockford now means they have complete control. And that's huge for a couple of reasons. I think one, the prospects can be sent there that Chicago deems when they want them sent. They completely control coaching. They completely control the lineup, the way that players are developed. This, even from a non-financial point, this is a huge deal. Not very many teams in the NHL have ownership of their AHL affiliate, and this puts the Blackhawks in a very unique situation.
Yeah, like you said, the two words that you really had is complete control, and that's what the Hawks have now. Like, we've seen in the past couple of years already where teams like the Chicago Wolves, they've switched affiliates. Charlotte Checkers this year, they just switched their affiliates. They're no longer affiliates with the Carolina Hurricanes. So now the Hawks have, they control what the Rockford Ice Hogs do. Like Rockford's stuck; they can't go anywhere, and we have more insight into, or the Hawks, I should say, have more insight into who they want on the coaching staff, player development wise.
Yeah.
And like they'll make Rockford would make signings that had nothing to do with the Blackhawks, and now the Blackhawks, like everything is going to happen for a reason for this organization. So it's exciting because like Rockford's not going anywhere. So I'm excited for the Blackhawks and what this means for our future with prospect growth and everything like that. So a big deal that really kind of shouldn't be overlooked. And I'm glad, Rockford's staying put.
Well, and what's also really, really cool, I know a lot of what we're talking about is for the benefit of the Blackhawks, which makes sense because that's what we're all about. There's also a lot of benefits coming to Rockford as well with full ownership of this team. I mean, we already had a lot of control over coaching. Yes, it takes us that full step to complete control, but we will also now be investing in the stadium, be investing in facilities and utilities for the stadium, for the team, for the fans. This is now part of Chicago Blackhawks TM.
Yep.
And that's a huge deal for Rockford. That's going to be, more state-of-the-art facilities, revamp, different engagement processes, different things from the Blackhawks organization down, that an AHL team doesn't have either the funds for sometimes, especially during COVID and post-COVID, but also just the wherewithal and the people to make some of these marketing and financial and business decisions. They now have access to all that. And that is going to be a huge boon for the people of Rockford. And the Hawks aren't going to field just a team of prospects. Like, it's going to be competitive hockey still. This is a win-win for everybody. And if I didn't realize, I learned a lot through this process. I always sort of wondered why the Chicago Wolves weren't our affiliate, because they're right here. They pride themselves on being an AHL organization that's as independent as possible. They want to field teams that win AHL championships. They're worried about their product, which is absolutely their right. But a lot of NHL teams, especially the Blackhawks that are big on that control, that just doesn't gel. Yeah. So it's super interesting to see these differences in AHL teams and like, who do they represent? What do they want to do? But yeah, super excited for the Blackhawks and really excited for Rockford.
I like that the Chicago Wolves are affiliated with the Hurricanes.
Yep. They're back with, that's right. They're with the
Chicago,
Hurricanes now.
Carolina.
That's like, there was like 3 teams and it was like 3 NHL teams in 4 years.
Yeah, they had the Predators before
Vegas,
the Blues.
Vegas, Blues, and now Carolina.
And then
It's
Vegas.
A weird thing to me.
Vegas bought and started the Silver Knights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, man, have you seen their jerseys? Because they're
but now I need to see them.
Oh, they're some of the coolest hockey jerseys.
Is it in Vegas?
Yeah.
Reno?
Yeah, Reno, Nevada.
Same thing. Reno.
I mean, yeah, but it's a brilliant move for Vegas to have an AHL affiliate. Talk about growing hockey in the desert. But man,
Henderson Silver Knights.
Yep.
Oh, that logo is sick.
For those of you listening, if you haven't checked them out, look at the Silver Knights AHL jersey. It's super cool.
Oh, the logo is sick. I'm trying to find the jersey now.
The silver and gold works so good.
Yeah, I've become a fan of them.
This is a huge move for the Blackhawks. So, I mean, like I said, just not even financially, just complete control. That's the big thing about this move. Complete control. Like if the Blackhawks say, I don't know, whoever they like, who's it? Lucas Reichel, when he comes over to North America and he plays for, Rockford, if they say we want him on the second line and we want him on the first power play, that's where he's at. If they say, we want him playing only 5v5, that's what he's going to get. The Blackhawks have complete control, and that is huge. Another thing to note while we're still talking about, stadiums and stuff like that, fans are actually going to be getting to go back to games in the United Center. What is it, April?
It's going to be announced in coming weeks because the baseball, just Wrigley Field and Guaranteed Rate Field, they just got announced 20% capacity. So obviously it was rumored a couple weeks ago that the Bulls and Blackhawks are going to get the same kind of treatment coming up soon. It would probably be near the 10 to 15%, obviously with the smaller stadium. So I guess it's not official, but April is going to be the target where fans are going to be allowed back.
How many fans are you projecting they would have with that 10 to 15%?
2,000.
2,000. Okay. Yeah. Just spread them out.
It's going to be interesting because I heard on WGN that Lightfoot and Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Illinois' Governor Pritzker are still not sold on this idea of indoor events. Like they're getting there on the outdoor events. Yep, MLB is definitely going to have games, have people in the stands. I'm still hearing just from commoner sources, regular citizen sources, that they're not there yet, and that's still being decided.
You hear about the Chicago Blackhawks? They're going to be playing soon.
Yeah,
exactly. Come on, Big Al sandwich.
Yeah. Oh, don't bring up Al's beef to me. But I hope that we get some fans in the stands soon.
It's a sign of good things.
Yeah. Again, the sign of anything coming back means we're moving forward with, getting people vaccinated. The sooner people get vaccinated, the sooner we can watch the Blackhawks live again.
Yep, I get my second dose in a few weeks.
Fantastic.
Awesome. We'll move on to another piece of news. The fact that Connor Murphy, his disciplinary hearing is going to be this week. Actually, did it already happen?
It happened, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sorry, I'll jump in real quick. He is not getting suspended. I don't think there was even a fine. Yeah, so Connor Murphy off the hook, as he should be, because that hit. I mean, if it
wasn't a major. It wasn't a major.
Yeah, if it was 5-10 years ago, it probably wouldn't even be a penalty. So
I could live with it being a major if it wasn't a match penalty.
At most, it was a minor. Like, it was a hard hit, but we've seen Cronwall hit people harder. I don't think he connected with the head either.
No, it looked like upper chest and his head flat.
I think it was like here, and the guy's head went back. But
yeah, glad we don't lose our top 4 D-man.
Yep.
He's a staple right now, him and Keith with the Han out. And then it's a bunch of young bucks. So it's good to see that Connor Murphy's not getting suspended. And yeah, so that's a big sigh of relief because,
there you go.
Especially with March's schedule.
Oh, yeah, we can't afford to have anyone out, frankly.
Speaking of defensemen, the big piece of news for the week. Brent Seabrook is officially retiring from the NHL. What is it, 15 years with the Blackhawks, I believe?
Yeah.
A big piece of your guys' team during like the cup years. Won you the 2013 Game 7 series versus Detroit, which propelled you into the finals.
Why?
You can't mention Seabrook without mentioning that Detroit series.
That's the best moment in his career.
The clutch goals, the captain whispering, everything about that series was Seabrook at his finest.
And then I really liked his thank you that he put in, what was it, the Chicago Tribune, or no,
Sometimes I think.
Yeah, sometimes Tribune or whatever it was. Like, he basically took like an entire page out and just put like a thank you message to the city of Chicago and Hawks fans. I thought that was kind of cool.
He's not gone. He's gonna find a way into some office position with the team, development, something. Like he's gonna be there still.
He did talk about that, about circling back in a few years about that. I mean, one thing to note is that he's not gone. He's retiring, but he will be still actively on the roster given long-term injured reserve status. And so his cap will still be there. He's still getting paid his salary. So the Hawks will still have to navigate that. It is what it is. Seabrook deserves the salary that he earned. And
You mean they're not going to be like the Detroit Lions with Calvin Johnson, where they just say, hey, give us the money?
I don't know if we can.
Probably not.
But he made a great point. He gave everything to this city. He put his body on the line to the point where it was his body and not his heart or his mind that said, I'm done with hockey. His body made the decision for him. He gave us everything that he had. And this city will remember him as an absolute hero and legend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, holy fuck. It's sad. No, it's sad. It's because like we just mentioned, all those little moments with Brent Seabrook, and we kind of take it for granted. And he was the epitome of a Chicago Blackhawk, just hardworking, never took a day off. He battled through injury. Like the one thing that he really hammered home, or that really hit hard during his press conferences, he said, I could have had surgery years ago, and there's days I couldn't get up and walk, and for so many years I was telling my body to hold off, and finally my body said not anymore. And it was sad that like he said he was feeling great coming into camp before the season started, and then the Monday before Christmas he woke up and couldn't walk. So yeah, it sucks. Me and Tim talked about him before. We were excited to have him back.
I was hyped.
It's I know we've been given a lot of like eulogy type stuff with Crawford and everything this year, but this one hurts just because he was such a big part of 3 Stanley Cups, and without Brent Seabrook talking to Jonathan Toews, who knows if we even had 2 other ones. I mean, it's all those little things that kind of just get looked over in like playoff goals and clutch moments and just his leadership in general. And, I can't wait till the fans get to give that welcome to Brent Seabrook, that thank you to Brent Seabrook in the Independence. And, we're going to see 7 hanging in the rafters one day. And hopefully it's by
Better be.
Better be. Let him have that day rather than throwing up Chelios right there next to him. But let Seabrook have that day because he absolutely deserves it. And, a class act guy and just true one of a kind and blessed to watch his career for 15 years.
Go ahead.
I mean, it sucks that it has to end like with him just up and retiring like that. But as Nick Lidstrom said, like he wanted to walk away from the game before it walked away from him, and his body sounds like it was getting ready to walk away, and he had to make that decision. And speaking of Lidstrom, I forget which Blackhawks player said it, but I'm going to say it about Seabrook. Great player, sad to see him go, but I'm going to be glad not to play against him ever again.
That's very fair.
Forget who said that, but when I saw that tweet, that quote, I was like, "Yep, that's class."
That's such a good that's such a great honor for another player to give another player. Is like, hey, thank God I don't have to play against this person anymore. The thing with Seabrook, above everything else for me, especially in how they've been interviewing guys recently that have played with him, we're seeing such a push addressing locker room culture and addressing healthy locker rooms and eradicating bullying from hockey, and especially like just the negative and toxic cultures. Brent Seabrook is one of those guys that makes sure every single person is welcome, invited. If somebody's new and maybe a little he's the first one bringing somebody over. All these guys that they interviewed have stories like that. Young guys talking about, oh yeah, Seabrook just took me under his wing. He did that so often, long before the Hawks, the dynasty core, were in mentorship positions. Seabrook was a huge factor in why the Hawks dynasty was so tight, because he made that locker room a place where everyone was welcome, everyone was invited, and man, that transitions on the ice. He is the person that you hold up as the poster child for what you want in a locker room.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head. Like you said, he welcomes everyone. Class act all around. The young guys, he's the first guy that would really interact with them just because he was that kind of guy. Like even like little things in the press conference, like after every question he was asked, it was always thank you, thank you,
yeah,
thank you. Like it's the little things, like such a good Canadian boy. And it hurts that he's leaving, but like the memories he's left is
they'll stick with you.
Yeah, it's one of those things,
definitely.
Like part of the childhood is dead. Like part of my childhood is dead now. Like no, not dead, but like
it's done. This is the end of innocence.
But like, Seabrook's dead. No, he's not. He's fine. Like he's right there. No, it's all gone.
But he's dead here.
But like just to show his class act, like I messaged him yesterday, just wanted to say thank you for your congratulations for 15 incredible seasons as a Chicago Blackhawk. Thank you for a childhood worth of endless memories, and best wishes with retirement. Enjoy all the family time you get now. Thank you again. And took time out of his day to respond to a random ass fan and just said, thank you, man. I appreciate the message.
And then he said, I'll be on Stick Blade podcast.
I mean, we're going to let him enjoy life away from hockey for a while. Maybe in a couple months, we'll reach out, see if he wants to. But yeah, I mean, he deserves all the time. Like he gave us his all for 15 years. It's time for him to, go do his other things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, hell of a career to Brent Seabrook. Sucks we're not going to see him on the ice again, but I mean, the guy gave his all. He 3-time Stanley Cup champion, Olympic gold winner. God damn, what a career.
Yeah.
If I had a glass to race for him, I would right now. All I got is my water bottle.
I mean, and that's the thing, it's a passing of the old guard. Eventually it's going to happen. It happened with the Wings, and now it's happening with the Hawks. I mean, was it Keith and Seabrook played? I'm trying to remember the exact stat, but it was over 1,000 games together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually players have to retire. I mean, I'm trying to remember.
But I don't have to like it.
No.
But, like even, Keith, for example, he's 34 right now, I think?
37.
Oh my God. But I mean, even he's going to be retiring here soon. I mean, this is like the natural progression of the game. This is how it works. Eventually, those guys that you grew up loving, they've got to walk away at some point.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make them feel worse right now, Jordan? Like, oh, Seabrook, oh, he's gonna be sold. He's gonna retire soon now too. Like, stop.
I had this discussion with my friend just this morning. Like, this is gonna hit Duncan Keith hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in a big push right now. Obviously, this team's succeeding, but Seabrook message, Keith didn't leave his side after he was told the news. Like, he would go visit Brent Seabrook, and when Seabrook came to the rink, he'd just be like Seabrook said he was on a leash.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I'm scared about Keith. He's such a competitive man, and I don't think he's ever gonna want to play to a point where his career is dwindling, where he could just say, I went out on the top of my game.
Mhm.
Like, he's not the elite player he was, but he's still a top 4D man on any team. And I'm just worried that that's going to be what's next, because Duncan Keith is such a competitive player where he's like, if I can't give my out, if I can't perform my best, I'm going to walk away soon. And he's 37. Where is the time gone? We lost Crawford, Sharp, Hossa, and now Brent Seabrook.
Here's the thing, though. Keith is such a remarkable athlete. He's been on that like health and fitness stuff longer than a lot of the modern NHL is at. He's done so many things to like, okay, how do I stay peak fitness? There's a chance he could realistically play, not in a top 4 role per se, but he could realistically play until he's 40, 41, 42, like Chara, if he keeps playing smart and keeps that physical fitness up. We're going to see more, obviously, in 2 years when, God, that's when his, Tays, and Kane's contracts are all up. That's going to be a kicker. At that contract negotiation phase, when the big 3 that are left, when their contract is up, how they renegotiate, because Kane will play well. He'll be Yager. Kane's going to keep playing into his 40s. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Is he?
But that's kind of the interesting thing, though, is, you're going to have the passing of the old guard, and Keith is, I mean, I didn't really think about it, but he's a really competitive guy. If you've ever listened to some of like the podcasts that he's been on, the man does not take days off.
No.
And I know always people like to get into like the financial structures of it. This is not the time. Like, we're going to just soak in the good times, reminisce.
Guys, it gets better. I mean, Jordan and I, we just went through all of that. All of our old guard has now passed. Jimmy Howard was really the last guy to kind of pass by.
Yeah.
So it gets better.
Yeah, this is just a time to cherish, reminisce on what he brought to your life, and, soak it all in, because before you know, it's all gone. So, but with that being said, we do have some more good news with the Blackhawks. Did you have it written down, Jordan, if you want to?
I'll let you go into it.
All right, well.
Fire away.
Shocking news this morning. Unexpected. Nobody really, just based off kind of what we were told at the start of the season. Kirby Dach is back on the ice, boys, along with Dylan Strome and Calvin DeHaan.
Top shelf snipe, boys.
I've been reading a lot of the interviews that Carlton was doing and the questions he was asked on Dach. I want to preface this with saying manage your expectations. They're still saying there's no real time he'll be back when he's back, basically. But the fact that he's skating again, the fact that he's doing some drills and practicing with the team, the fact that he's on the taxi squad for this road trip, continuing to skate and practice with everyone. This is huge. Yep. Whether he comes back in a month, whether he comes back, end of April, whether he doesn't come back this year, but he's getting the reps in, the fact that you never know how wrist injuries are going to go. And him being out there, him looking comfortable, looking ready to get back out there as soon as he can, man, that's just a jolt of adrenaline and energy.
Yeah, and that's part of that young body. He was given a 3 to 5 month time frame, but here we are in like month 3 already, and now he's going to be traveling with the team. I know it's still, he said he has a ways to go, but Kirby Dach, I know for a fact he wants to be out there pushing for a playoff spot with the boys right now. So I mean, it was just refreshing news to see. I mean, and then
Great
along
news.
with Dylan Strom coming
Yeah.
on. So I think obviously Kirby Doc would not be seeing the ice this year if the Blackhawks weren't in the position that they are now. If they were
No.
bottom feeders, we wouldn't really be hearing about this. But this is part. I know for a fact he's part of the cause pushing. Like, hey, I want to be out there. I want to contribute. I want to help this team as much as possible.
Absolutely. But you also know with Colleton,
Yeah.
he's so focused on players' injuries. He takes that so seriously. And the fact that he's like, I'm not going to pressure. I don't want to put pressure onto Kirby to bring him back. And he even said, he's like, nah, I'm not going to throw, timetables out there and put pressure on the kid. Like, but again, like you said, the fact that he's out there and the fact that we're in this position 3 to 5 months at the start of this season meant we're going to see him next year.
Yeah.
3 to 5 months now is us going, wait, okay, how many days is that? What position can we be in?
Calendar's
It matters
out.
again.
It's like
and seeing Strome back out there, man, concussions, brain injuries, and anything like that scare me so much.
Oh, for sure.
It's so good to see him back out there, because if he was still having the post-concussion symptoms, he wouldn't be. There's no way he'd be skating again. So getting back out there and getting those reps, I'm thrilled for him. Dahan was a day-to-day situation to begin with. So, but God, I'll take a little good injury news for the
Yeah.
Hawks.
I remember when
Same.
we started the year, it was kind of like, oh my God, the hits keep coming. And now it's like, timeout, the cavalry's incoming.
Yeah, exactly. There's some fresh bodies ready to hop on the ice.
Yeah. So
Where's Nylander at?
yeah, well, he's gonna come out of the clouds too and just become
Right. There he is.
He's like, oh, he's actually in the lineup tonight. No practice needed.
So I got a quick segment to tie into this new segment for the show. It's
All
called
right.
called the Hawks back meter. Okay. Ask Nick a
Uh,
question and he has to answer it. Nick, are the Hawks back?
After Sunday's experience, all right, just a quick story. Sunday, I tweeted after Pius Suter scored the third unanswered goal for the Blackhawks, up 3-0 in the second period. Hawks are back. It's just a simple tweet. Not trying to get too confident, but we're up 3-0 against the defending Stanley Cup champions. This goddamn team is going to the playoffs. It's on my mind. I said, this team is going to the playoffs. We are kicking the Lightning's ass. So, just a simple tweet. Hawks are back. I do that a lot with the Bears. But 7 seconds later, goal. Okay, no worries. 3-1. I think it was 22 seconds later. Another goal. All right,
It's about that.
3-2. All right, we're still winning. In a 3-minute span, the Lightning tied up and then scored 3 more unanswered. It's like, oh my God. So I'm a mush.
So the meter is here.
It's still middle. It's still just straight up the middle.
Okay.
Doing our best.
I'm going to ask you next week too.
I will try not to ruin it.
I think that's pretty much it for the news for us to talk about for the Wings and the Hawks. We'll touch on some news for the rest of the league after we do the flashback and flash forward segments of the show. We started with the Red Wings at the top of the show, so let's go ahead and just start with them for the flashback and the flash forward for this week. This past week, they played only 2 games. They had a 1-4 loss versus Columbus, and then they had a 2-5 loss versus the Carolina Hurricanes. The 1-4 loss to Columbus, I thought the Wings played okay. I think they could have played better. They've been just against Columbus all year. The games have really been a toss-up, and I think they dropped the ball on this game.
Yep.
The Carolina game was frustrating for me because the Wings played very good, very good. And Carolina just absolutely capitalized on a few defensive lapses, and that cost them this game. I mean, what was it? 3 of the goals were either breakaways or odd man rushes because somebody fumbled it at the blue line. Like,
Yeah.
Detroit played better than Carolina did, I think, this game, and it sucks that this is the result that we got.
I would agree with you. The Columbus game, I think it was just, it is what it is. Like we're rebuilding. It wasn't a great game. But the Carolina game was, like you said, it frustrated me because we had the lead twice in that game. And most of their goals came off of capitalizing on chances, which that's hockey. You capitalize on the chances you get. But like the score line doesn't show the actual game. They beat us 5-2, but it was way closer than that. And we see glimpses of the Wings like that we're going to see in a couple years when they're finally fully gelled and we have our pieces in place and we're going to be, challenging people. The Wings are back. I'll start saying that eventually.
Hold your horses.
Not anytime soon. But yeah, Jordan, it was just frustrating.
And like the Wings showed, there is talent with this roster. I mean, I call it the tic-tac-toe goal because that's sort of what they are. It's dot, 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 and it happens.
Mm-hmm.
They had one of those this game. And, you can see the systems actually, when they play them, they work. They can play decent 5-on-5. The stats this season actually show they're not a bad 5-on-5. The power play has been clicking as of late. And man, it sucks that they lost this game because for all intents and purposes, they looked like the better club this game.
Yep.
Philip Zadina was awesome sauce.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
Here we go, bringing that back. Grandpa's got the cool quotes.
This week was frustrating because again, the Columbus game, I think they could have been better. The Carolina game, they looked good, just didn't work out for them.
Yep.
And then the games that they have upcoming this week, it's 2 games versus Tampa, and then they're going to play against Carolina again. The Tampa games, I think we're expecting a slaughter. All to be fair, we're expecting a slaughter.
I'll throw up the double L for those.
The Carolina game, I want to see them take the W because they showed last time they played, they were able to compete at 5v5 when they try.
Yep.
And Dylan Larkin was, I believe, skating at practice, so he might be back, which, again, that's bolstering your forward and your centerman group, which that's noticeable. It's your top-line centerman. It's arguably, one of your best players on your team
captain.
being back.
Yeah.
I do think the Tampa games are losses. I'm going to try to be, as I call it, the pessimist realist and say those are losses. But I do think the Carolina game is winnable. They showed last week it's winnable, and they were that way without Larkin.
I agree with you. I think we're going to lose to Tampa. Maybe we make one of them look kind of close, maybe. But I think with Larkin most likely back for the Carolina game, I think we can squeak out a win there. So, yeah.
That's tough sledding.
Yeah.
Nah, Tampa's a bunch of frauds. They're lucky. They're lucky. They got all the puck luck in the world. No, yeah, it's gonna be a tough week for the Red Wings in all seriousness. I think it's 0-3. Sorry.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Guy here, but it's 3 tough opponents. Or 2 tough opponents, 3 games.
Yeah, it's fair.
And then for the Blackhawks this week, you guys had a 2-3 overtime loss versus Tampa, a 4-3 overtime win in a shootout, and then you guys had the 3-6 loss, the meltdown, basically, as I'm calling it. So
Chernobyl.
But this has been a roller coaster week for you guys because that overtime was insane.
The both were.
I have not seen a closer, buzzer beating goal. I don't think since I've watched hockey has there been 0.1 second left in overtime to the point where they've got to review it to know if it actually crossed the whole line before the buzzer went out.
When I was in college, I think Rafalski had a 0.2 against New Jersey for us in the regular season.
Yeah,
but yeah,
this is literally the closest you get to 0 seconds. Oh my God. Yeah, that was you want to talk pain? That was pain.
Man,
that was like Ralph Wiggum when you look, you can see the exact moment when his heart breaks.
Yeah,
it was another situation where we're up 2-0 entering the second period, right?
Yeah.
Up 2-0 into the second, and it just got away from the Hawks. They kind of play this game where late in the games, it's not a dogging on them. Tampa Bay is a great team. Don't get me wrong, the Hawks play hard, but it's just been, even when the Hawks were good, they always played the third period when it was just we're going to kill a penalty the whole period.
There was always one period, whether it was the second or the third, that they just took off kind of. And that was in the dynasty years.
Yeah. And it was just it sucks. And, again, we'll go even Sunday afternoon. Those were probably the 2 hardest losses a Hawks fan had to deal with this season, just because of the circumstance. Like, you're up 3-0. Like I said, Hawks are back. Holy shit! And then we lose.
Turned it down right when you said that too.
And then you lose with 0.1 seconds left on the clock. And then, oh my God, I mean, Friday night's game in overtime. That overtime game was absolutely
That's phenomenal.
insane.
Bonkers.
Chance after chance, 2-on-1 after 2-on-1, breakaway after breakaway, and it was a phenomenal series. It was absolutely entertaining compared to the first time we played them. And oh God, I don't want to see them again for a while though.
The fact that you guys, a team that no one expected, we didn't even expect you guys to go anywhere at the beginning of the season when you lost Taves, when you lost Doc, when everything, and it was just a bunch of rookies.
We had no goalies.
Yeah, the goalie it was an okay corral at goalie. Like, who's going to be spinning in this week? The fact that you guys were able to hold your own against the defending champions, this stacked monstrosity, the all-stars of a team, remarkable. Like, yes, you lost 2 of them, but holy crap, you gave them a run for their money.
And here's the thing. I'm a firm believer that we took 3 out of 6 points. We took half the points possible against Tampa Bay. That's a victory in my book. That's not even a little victory. Does it hurt that we gave up that 0.1 second goal in overtime? Yes. Does it hurt that we fell apart in the last game? Yes. However, Tampa Bay has that gift that true Stanley Cup champions have, and 2 like quality teams have, of they can turn it on when they want to. And I think fun little fact, each team that had the 2-goal lead going into the second period lost each game.
Yep.
Because Tampa had the same thing. They had two goals up in the first, and then they blew it. That's a fun little fact. That being said, we're very fortunate that we have Tampa in our division this year, I think, because we're able to, play against this team periodically throughout. We started our season against them and got thoroughly decimated. Now we're like midway through, and it's a checkpoint. It's a measuring stick of how far have we come. And it's, we can hang against Tampa. We're able to see playing against lower teams. Are we playing the way we need to against lower teams? And are we playing the way that are we hanging with a team like the Lightning? This is the Central Division is fascinating this year because of these measuring sticks that we have.
No, and even players on Tampa are kind of giving Hawks the credit. Like Ryan McDonough, he came out and said this week that the Blackhawks are one of the top teams in this division. It's not no fluke. They play hard every night. They're one of the toughest opponents they go against every time they play against them. So like, that's something to be proud of. I mean, considering Tampa Bay being the dynamic force that they are, it's just, that we are getting credit to, hey, they're not no fluke. This is a top team in the division for a reason. And, it gets me excited when a player like Ryan McDonough on the Tampa Bay Lightning is just
right, because he's not just blowing smoke. He doesn't have to say that.
No, like he could say, no, they're trash. They're lucky right now.
Or he could do the usual hockey line of like, tough to play against any team, any night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not you won. You guys lost, but you went the distance.
Yeah, exactly. You saw a lot of growth. They were tough to play on.
Yeah. Just a couple notes from the series. I thought both goalies looked sensational.
Yes.
Lankinen made, even, letting in 6 goals on Sunday afternoon, he made some huge saves to kind of keep the Hawks in it. And when they were up 3-0, he was making breakaway save after breakaways, or a couple breakaway saves, I should say. Subban, holy shit. Sorry, I've been swearing too much this episode, Liz.
It's a family podcast, Nick.
He was unreal. In overtime,
Subs was huge.
Absolutely insane. He went bananas. And then in the shootout as well, that celebration, you kind of feel good for him.
Oh, you have to feel good for Subban. The big knock on him's always been his consistency. He still struggles with rebounds. He still, relies on his athleticism, but we're seeing him put together a quality product.
Yeah.
We're seeing him make it work. Man, I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I am too. This is really his first true chance at it, and he's really taken it by the horns and running with it. And then to break it, he reached 2 milestones with 100 goals and 200 points. Not bad for a second-round pick and who kid was being told that he was too small to play in the NHL.
Not a big deal. There
Not
we
a
go.
big deal. And then Philip Kershev, he looked nasty this series against a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning. He had a filthy shootout goal on Curtis McElroy.
That was a beaut.
Snipe, top shelf, kind of not expecting. Then a nice patience play on Sunday where he held on his backhand, caught Vasilevsky off guard, and just threw it in. So, yeah, I mean, the kids continue to show. You got guys like Hagel continue to be great. And
Hagel's everywhere.
yeah,
I mean, I know that he's only got one goal this year, but I hear his name throughout games more than any other player that's not Kane or DeBrincat, basically. I am always hearing, and Hagel got it out of the corner. Hagel stole the puck. Hagel got it to Kubalik for a goal. His hustling has not quit. And somebody else that I thought really shined in this series, believe it or not, Boquist.
yeah.
We are seeing Boquist play with a confidence and playing with like creativity and making these plays that he's finally starting to come into his own. And I'm not worried about him defensively. He did some shot blocking in the Sunday game that I thought was superb.
Yeah, he has been good. I mean, he kind of hinted. I was kind of trying to keep him quiet for a little segment in the future, but in the near future, that way we don't have the same
You
guy.
mean it's
But,
not going to be Patrick Kane?
Oh, stop, guys! It's only happened twice this season.
Patrick or Lankinen?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fair.
I'm not counting last week because you picked it for Tim.
Oh no!
Tim, you didn't listen? Yeah, he had Patrick Kane.
Oh, that's fair. I would have given it to him.
Shit. Patrick Kane, 1,000 games on Tuesday. Just thought we should bring that up. We forgot to get that in the news, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Coming up on Tuesday, I guess.
I think we lost Nick.
God, what a face.
That is the
Your mom would love
perfect
that.
one to stop on.
That's a gift. That's a true gift. Well, that being said, yeah, Boquist had a phenomenal week. The kids keep coming. Wyatt Kalnick got his first NHL game. I'm just taking over for Nick right now while he's suspended in the space-time continuum.
Dr. Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Wyatt Kalnick did do a phenomenal job in his first game, though, especially after Murphy got ejected. Carlton made an interesting point about saying, it wasn't fair to some of these rookies that we asked them to step up and do what we had them have to do, especially Kalnick. But honestly, we've had so many rookies this year. What's one more being thrust into
So
a
many
position?
freaking rookies. It's ridiculous. Like,
9.
I love it.
I think we've got 9 rookies.
That's so crazy.
And it's working, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. If it works, it works. And
Right. I would have thought it wouldn't, but here we are.
I think it's working really because you have these kids that want to stake a claim to a place.
Yep.
And this is the year to do it.
I don't think you've ever had, it's very rare to have this many roster spots that are actually up for challenge.
Yeah. Like, that's nuts. And like, I can see that's why they're out working and they're working hard. And that's the reason, because they want a spot. And that is theirs to use. And I love to see it.
So Nick just messaged us. He ended up just losing power. So
I'll pick for him.
No.
I'll pick for him.
All right. So just real quick, we're going to talk about the upcoming week for the Blackhawks. You guys are going to play twice against the Dallas Stars and then twice against the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Predictions, Tim?
I mean, you guys know how I feel about Dallas. It's not a joke. I don't like Dallas. I think that we can take both of these games realistically. I'm not lying. I think we can do it. I think that there's a high likelihood they go to overtime.
Okay.
But I think that there is no reason. We just showed we can hang against Tampa Bay. I think Dallas is not going to have Roop Hintz. Dallas still doesn't have Radulov. No, I'm not intimidated by Dallas. That said, I take Florida seriously. I take the Panthers seriously. I know I'm backwards.
They got Joe Q.
Yeah, and I put a lot of stock in Q. I think Ekblad has been playing like a number 1 defenseman, and their crop of forwards is sneaky good. I I think that we take 1 against Florida.
Okay.
I think with Dallas, you guys are coming off of this Tampa series where you just showed yourselves what you can do, and I think they're mad. So
Yeah.
I think you guys are going to take. I think you guys are going to take both those games, and I think I agree with you. You split with Florida because I think that momentum will kind of taper off a little bit into one of those games.
And as it's like a 6-game road trip, and those road trips right now in the COVID times, those sort of sap momentum just because you're not able to go out and do anything on the off nights. I think definitely it starts to dip down a little bit during the Panthers series. I'm looking ahead to that Tampa Bay series, and I'm curious how it's going to shoot back up. They're going to be pissed. They're going to be fired up. But yeah,
You might see Hagel throw some bagels, just pa-pa.
Hate it. It's stupid, and I love it.
I think Chicago is going to be able to hang with Dallas. I don't think that Dallas is on that level that Tampa Bay is on. Tampa Bay, they're the New England Patriots of the NHL. They have everybody in
the Tom Brady New England Patriots, not the Cam Newton.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay, so not to have an inflated ego, the Tampa Bay Lightning to the NHL right now are what the Detroit Red Wings were to the NHL of the late 90s, early 2000s. They have everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
I can see that.
And they do.
Yzerman built that. Yzerman came from that Wings team, so you can see it right there, and it's lifeblood.
Again, I think the Dallas games, you guys can hang with them, and I think you probably will be able to take them both. The Florida games, it's weird because Florida has been very good this season. Weirdly enough, I think they look better than Dallas, and I like their game better than Dallas. And it's weird because going into the season, I don't think any of us predicted Florida being this good.
No.
But I don't know. I don't see you guys winning both the Florida games. I think you probably will win one, and then the other one is not going to be close. Florida's done a really good job of being resilient this season. They seem to bounce back from losses fairly quick. What are they, 12, 5, and 6 or something like that right now?
It's something around there.
But either way, they're a very good club. They're obviously in a playoff spot, and it's kind of hard to compete with a team like them who are pretty good at every position.
15, 5, and 4.
So even better.
Yeah,
than I said.
Oh my God, there you go.
I can't believe Toronto's 18, 6, and 2.
Well, they're playing in Canada against a series of bad teams.
The wheels will fall off once they hit the playoffs.
Look at how many Canadian teams have fired their coach in a year that nobody's getting fired.
True. They probably want to keep this division. They're like, can we keep this?
Yeah. Hey, we actually stand a chance right now.
But yeah, I think that's sort of how your guys' week goes. Let's move on to Star of the Week.
If I'm being honest, I think Nick would pick the exact same way. Not trying to be a joke, but I think he feels the same way. So we'll see what he says when he eventually.
He might take Dallas a little more seriously than me. I don't.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's probably not at this point.
There's not even ice in Dallas. Come on.
Well, there was a lot of ice in Dallas. No, not even going to make that joke. There's a lot of people that had a really bad time. I'm not. Yeah. I'm above that.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that meme? I had Will Smith it had some people on top, and it says Northerners. Man, this winter ain't even been that bad. And then Winter says, "Oh yeah, watch this," and it has Will Smith, and it says Texas, and it says, "Man, I didn't even say anything."
Oh no. Yeah. That's awful. Yeah, let's do player of the week. Well, let's start with Detroit to see if we get Nick's modem back
I'll
up
pick for him
time.
if he doesn't come. I'll pick for him. Don't you worry, Nick.
I think I know who he wants, but
I know who he wants.
Detroit's player of the week.
Oh. I think we're gonna have the same person, Jordan.
We're gonna have different people, but for very different reasons.
Really?
Luke Glendening, and for me, it's not a play thing for me that picks Luke Glendening. I really liked Luke Glendening's post-game comments after they had the game versus Carolina. I liked the fact that he didn't sugarcoat it when he talked to the media. He said, he basically said, we left Grice out to dry. He didn't try to say we need to be better as a unit or we need to be playing better as a team. He put it just like it was. The team left Grice out to dry, and I like that he admitted it. I liked the fact that he didn't make excuses or say, well, we got to put more pucks on net, blah, blah, blah. Just called the problem for what it was, and I respect that from him as a player. And it's why I like the fact that he has an A on his sweater. It's leadership mentality. I mean, you said, you got to have positive chemistry in the locker room. Frank honesty like that is what makes good locker rooms. And I liked seeing that from him this week, even if he wasn't lighting up the scoreboard.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. He's not my pick, but I agree with you. Like he wears that A for a reason. And if by some crazy chance that Larkin wasn't getting this feud this year, it would have gone to him. Like he would have been that next in line person, I think, in my opinion. The other thing about him that I liked seeing was, I think it was today in practice, he was working like at the end of practice on face-offs with Rasmussen. Like they were just going at it continuously just to work on it. And like, that's a great veteran thing to like work with the younger guys on things to help improve them. Because if Rasmussen can start taking face-offs like Glendening, and we have Rasmussen develop into a face-off guy like that, whoo, doctor. Oh, Nick, I already picked for you. I picked Patrick Kane. I'm just saying.
No.
I'm just kidding. We haven't done Chicago yet. For Detroit, I got to go with that Phil the sniper, Philip Zadina. Good old Phil with those two just freaking rockets, just putting them right where they needed to be. I love watching Philip Zadina score. Every time he scores, I feel like an angel gets its wings, and Ottawa gets more and more scared. So he's my player of the week. I just love seeing, like we talked at the beginning of the show, how much he's grown and how much he's developed, where we say, oh, he's this great two-way player. He's doing so great. He has better defensive stats and so on. But he's a sniper first and foremost. And it was nice seeing that. I think one of them, he was like on a knee. Like,
you're talking about like the bended wrister?
It's beautiful. Just art. Like Michelangelo would paint it if he saw him today, is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's my player of the week.
Okay. If I wasn't picking Glendening, I would have picked Zadina. I mean, for all the reasons you said, just the two-way play has been there. The beautiful goals have been there. And he's becoming a very well-rounded player. One of those players who in a couple of years when Detroit's contending, he's going to be one of the cornerstones at the forward position. And he's showing why. Nick is officially back with us. A short power outage. Unfortunately, he missed the flash forward. Everyone is basically in agreement. The Hawks will probably win or could win both games versus Dallas, and probably they're going to split Florida.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I think that's probably what I would say too.
Yeah,
called it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Tim and Nick, who are your guys' player of the weeks for Chicago?
I'm gonna go with Adam Boquist.
There we go.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I've been dogging on him quite a bit lately. Well, not lately, but really to start the season, I was his biggest critic. And, he's kind of coming around. Like I mentioned it last week, where his confidence is starting to build and he's starting to play. He's not playing scared like we've seen in Vegas. But no, I mean, in the last 4 games, he has 5 points. And then he has 7 points in the last 8 games. So he's turning into that offensive defenseman that we always really wanted out of him. And yeah, I'm excited. He looks more confident on the power play. He's not playing scared with the puck on his stick, and he's being that electric kind of player that he is. So, yeah, Adam Boquist is my deserved player of the week.
I love it. I agree with you 100% on that. I am going to go with Boquist's roommate. I'm going to go with the cat, Alex DeBrincat. I am loving the way that he is playing. And I mean, this whole year he's been on another level, but you just see it with the way that he's hustling. He's, not only just potting goals, he's another one that was a pure sniper. That's it. A one-dimensional, he was able to find, he wasn't necessarily the fastest, wasn't the grittiest. He was undersized. He's a sniper. this year, and we're seeing it more and more, he's hustling, he's winning board battles, he's, back checking, his defensive play has become so much more well-rounded, and we're seeing him and Kane on this wavelength that is just making both of them thrive. It's no longer just Kane making DeBrincat better. It's DeBrincat being this individual player who is now holding his own and adding to Kane's game and making Kane better while they play off of each other. Man, that's exciting to have. And I don't think that we win some of these Tampa games without DeBrincat's goals, but without the way that DeBrincat plays both on and off the puck.
Yeah, he plays a big man's game for a small guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's in front of the net. He's really just getting in the dirty, gritty area. So, yeah, very deserved honors for you, Tim. I think he was mine last week. So, 2 weeks in a row he's mentioned here for Play of the Week. So
he deserves it.
Absolutely.
It's good to see Boquist actually, like you're saying, getting those points, getting himself on the board. Because I remember last season in the playoffs, we were talking like just how out of place he felt and looked, like where he was just messing up, making mistakes. And we talked about how worrisome that could be for his mentality. But it looks like he's getting himself on the right path, which is good to see for a young guy.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy with the trajectory I'm now seeing with his development.
Good.
We have a couple pieces of news around the league to touch on. Two of them I don't think are going to be very long pieces. The other one we are going to touch on for a couple minutes. The first one is the passing of Walter Gretzky. Really, he was a formative person in Wayne's, development as a hockey player, getting him into the game, and just, really helping facilitate this guy who literally the superstar of the NHL in his era. Everything that I've read about him online in terms of people interacting with him from, a fan perspective has been positive. I haven't read any sort of like negative press on him ever.
No.
This one's just it sucks. A great person who has been there and really helped shape a young player who has helped shape the league for that matter. It sucks. And
yeah, it does. I think he's called Canada's hockey dad.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, so it's you've seen how many people went out for his funeral and his all that stuff. So yeah, it sucks, especially praying for the Gretzky family during this difficult time.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, Jordan, I was going through Twitter and just seeing all these incredible stories. Like he was like worshipped like a king just for. He's a great human, but for being Wayne Gretzky's father and kind of, so just sad, crazy, and thoughts and prayers to the Gretzky family during this difficult time.
Well,
very true.
It's cool to see how supportive he was. Even long before Gretzky was ever the great one, just how supportive he was of his son and how much of a kind person he seemed to be to anyone that wanted to talk with him. He's this legend, especially, all over, but especially in Canada. He is the legend's father.
Yep.
And very down to earth, very, positive, just seemed like the kind of guy that you can talk to. And I don't know, I love that. I love the idea of him being Canada's hockey dad and all those wonderful responses that we're seeing, I love that.
It is like sad to see, like looking at the responses. Like he was Wayne Gretzky's dad. He was his agent too, I think. So he helped guide him
remarkable
professionally as well. I forgive him for not, for talking his son out of coming to Detroit, because imagine the memories we'd have with that. But I understand why he sent him why he wanted to go to LA, because it brought hockey to life on the West Coast, which their fanship over there is huge now, and I think it's mainly because of Gretzky playing there.
Oh, definitely.
But we've had a couple passings in the last couple of weeks with the Wings losing someone in our organization, and now losing the dad of hockey. So sucks, but thoughts and prayers to the Gretzky family going through this right now.
Another piece of news I kind of want to touch on is just these fines and like just sort of disciplinary stuff that the league's been handing out. And I don't know how else to put it. I tell everybody all the time, not everybody's a speedster. Not everybody is this offensive dynamo who just puts up goals, goals, goals. Some guys play just a physical game or a hard checking game, however you want to describe it. That's fine. I think all of us are, we all acknowledge it. It's fine. It's part of the game of hockey. There have been a couple incidents this week. The Ovechkin, the cup check that he had, the hit or the sloofa on Fabry. Just, it seems like there's been a lot of stuff floating around this week with like fines and stuff like that. I gotta ask just a weird question. Is it time that the NHL looks at their fine system for players? Because I look at the fines and I'm like, dude, this has got to be a joke, right? Like
Pocket change.
Here's the thing.
$5,000 for a guy like Ovechkin, to someone like us, that's like $20.
It's less on the NHL at this point because this was all negotiated on in the CBA. And a lot of this comes down from the Players Association as well. Because a lot of times you'll see the maximum amount fined per the CBA. Like a lot of it was protections that they built into the last CBA. I'm curious as to see if moving forward, I think the next one is in 2023. They were able to push it back when because we just talked about the extension.
They just renewed it last season, I think, for 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah. I would not be surprised, given where we're moving on player safety and reevaluating, especially things like, the spearing and, some of the really dirty plays, not just hockey plays that go too far. I would not be surprised if we see some renegotiating, especially if the Players Association, if I was doing negotiations for the Players Association, I would say, okay, I'm willing to bend a bit and say you can find more on these and use it as a bargaining chip to get something else back. Because if you're playing clean and even if you're playing hard and playing gritty and you're not playing cheap, a lot of this stuff isn't going to affect you. You can give a little bit more and use that as a bargaining chip. That's what I would do.
Yeah. As Jerome was just saying, like the $5,000 fine, like
It's nothing.
Pocket change. It's not going to change the behavior. As teachers, as parents, a little slap on the wrist isn't going to make them go, oh, I screwed up. I shouldn't do something like that again. You got to hit them where it really hurts, and suspensions. Like if you take them away from the ice to where they can't help their team, that hurts them more because they're like, wow, I really screwed up. Now I can't be there for my team, my brothers on the ice, helping us make our way towards the cup. $5,000, like you said, to a guy like Ovechkin, that's nothing.
No.
Like his behavior is not going to change.
Yeah, because you lose money in that too. Like you're suspended for, say, like Tom Wilson just got suspended for 7 games. I know a lot of people thought there was going to be more just due to his history. But yeah, you still lose that game day check. You still lose potential bonuses. So it still affects their pockets. Suspensions are going to be really what's implemented more. I think the 7 games is for this season only being 56. I think that's fair.
Right.
That's really painful.
I don't think a lot of people are really considering everybody's basing the suspensions off the 82 game schedule, and it's completely different this year. But yeah, this is kind of expected though. All these rivalries are kind of starting just because we're getting to that point in the season where we have seen these teams multiple times. We've seen it with the Blackhawks and Lightning on Sunday's game where it just got chippy. But it was just, it's getting to that point in the season where these teams hate each other. They hate each other. And the NHL is going to try to do what they can to crack down because it's like they know the game's starting to get more violent just because of how many games it's been since against each team.
And like that's the thing I want to clarify is like I don't think any of us here are against, hard hits into the boards or against, good checks or anything like that. I more want to see the league or the NHLPA do something about the dirty plays. Stuff like slew footing or like cup checks or the blatant slashing.
I'm like you said, I'm fine with a hit in the boards, a nice clean check, but it's the cheap shots that can alter someone's career. Like, no, not okay. That's not hockey. That's dirtbag.
And it's the same reason I'm still pro fighting in the league is because it's 2 people agreeing typically. It's you want to go, okay, yeah, it's time to go. They agree and they enter this side portion of hockey, this side bet of hockey. A lot of these dirty plays, the guy's defenseless. They're either not aware of what's going on, or there's predatory hits, or there's cheap shots. That's the stuff that's unacceptable.
Yeah, kicking
to
out
me.
someone's foot. Seriously?
That's so dangerous.
And
There's no room for that.
And like you said with the fighting, like fighting is one of the hearts of the sport. Like you said, the two guys agree. You're not going to see someone in the fight hit someone and they're going slam them, and they're not going to jump on top of them and keep punching them. They're not going to have the Gilmore take their skate off and start trying to hit him with it. Like, don't get rid of fighting, because that's how, one, they get their frustrations out, and two, it's two guys making an agreement. All right, let's do this. Drop gloves.
Well, and you've even seen when somebody sucker punches, or somebody engages in a fight when somebody didn't, when somebody said, nah, I don't want to, and they hit him anyway. That's unacceptable. And the league punishes that, and the other players punish that as well. So you can have separate discussions of, hard hitting hockey, fights in hockey, and then this, which we are talking about, the cheap shots and the dangerous shots, the deliberately dangerous shots.
Yes, the things that, like David said, the things that can be life-changing. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, if a guy's slew foots, he falls down. That's not always the case. I mean, if you get hit, like if you get slew foot from behind and you fall back and you crack your head on the ice, you're looking at possible concussions. You're looking at potential brain damage. If you don't, catch yourself falling, it's blatantly dangerous stuff that nobody can see coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one piece of news that I really want to talk about, which is league-wide, is this discussion of potential changes to the NHL Draft Lottery. I mean, David and I have particular grievances with this system because it doesn't work right now at all for the Wings, or at least it hasn't worked.
Specifically for the Wings.
It's worked for the Hawks. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining.
Spots out of any team.
So as it stands right now, like the current system is the first 3 picks of the NHL draft are lottery picks for teams that didn't make the playoffs. There's staggered percentages about who's going to get the first pick, second pick, third pick. After that, it's all standings based.
Yep.
The problem has been in past years that you get these teams like the Edmonton Oilers, for example, who just decide we're going to take 3 or 4 first overall picks. We're not going to do anything with them. We're going to starve the rest of the league of these, great talented players. And yeah, that's what's going to happen. I think Detroit missing or going from first last year to fourth is what really has set this talk in motion. I mean, last season was ugly for Detroit. There's no other way to put it. It was a dumpster fire, and it wasn't an intentional tank, which is what the league originally wanted the draft lottery to be for, is to stop intentional tanks. The changes that they're proposing, or that are being proposed, at least that I've read online, are that a team cannot win the lottery more than twice within a 5-year span, and the fact that a team cannot jump more than 10 spots. So basically, if you're a fringe playoff team who just misses, you're not getting first overall. Sorry.
So you're talking New York Rangers last year then, correct?
Mm-hmm. I like these changes. The only change that I would make is, rather than not being able to jump 10 spots, I would make it 5, because no team tanks to get into the 7th or 8th overall spot. You don't see it. No. And I like the fact that the league saying, or the potential is, you can't win it more than 2 years or more than 2 years in a 5-year span, because then again, you stop the stuff like Edmonton having of, taking Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the bottom 5 teams, your bottom 5 teams, really be the only ones that can have an opportunity to that first pick. Because those,
I like the 10 teams. I think that keeps playoff bubble teams from getting a jump. But I think that the top 10, I still think that the spirit and the intention of the rule of we don't want teams to tank, but we want, we want the teams that deserve it. I think that the bottom 10 teams still could be, especially given how tight standings can be, frankly, with overtime points and whatnot. I don't think it's outrageous, even if the percentages are super low. And I get where you guys are coming from, having been horribly burned. I get that
all the time.
That's horrid. That said, bottom 10 teams, even if you're the top of those 10, you're still in the bottom third of the league. I still think that that's justifiable, especially if you can't get it more than twice in a 5-year span.
Look what Jordan just said earlier. We were the worst team by a mile last year.
Oh,
we were the locked in worst team before the COVID stuff even happened. And we picked 4th.
And that sucks. that there's no other way to say that.
Did you hear that cry from Edmonton out here? Because they're one of the main emphasis was teams limited to no more than 2 lottery wins in a 5-year period. That's literally the story of Edmonton's franchise since we've been around.
Yeah.
No, I kind of like this. I like the 10 teams. The 10 teams. I like that. You can jump 10 spots to win. I think if you're literally say if you're 2 points from missing the playoffs and you still have a chance to win the lottery, I think that's kind of unfair. Because you're a brink playoff team, you missed me because one guy was out for 2 games. It sucks, but I like the 10 teams. I think it's a perfectly round number, and the NHL loves their round numbers.
So good.
Yeah, and people in general like who back of the 15th team? Nobody.
Although, like what Tim said, I think those bottom 5 teams, your 6 through 10. Should be the low percentage. And
I'm totally good with that. I like the idea of them having the option, but I do think that we should restructure the percentage options.
Yes. And I agree with that 100%. And then instead of rewarding the top 3 teams for the lottery, it's just the top 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I think, I think this could work. I think, these rebuilding teams will get rewarded more rather than, getting screwed by the lottery, as Detroit fans know.
Because currently, as it stands, Dallas is currently the 10th ranked team in the current draft setting, and they have a 3.5% chance to get the first pick.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited I'd be excited for these changes.
And that's the thing. I want these changes. Yes, admitted selfishly because I'm a Wings fan, and we've been getting screwed since what year did we miss the playoffs? It was 2017, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, 2016 was the last year you guys were right.
Yeah, 2016 was the last year we made. So we've literally been getting screwed since 2017. But it's not even just for personal reasons like that, because I like the Wings and we've been getting screwed. It's not fair to any team in the league that, a team like Edmonton can just take all the first overall picks and just do nothing with them. Or a team, like Buffalo, for example, could, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, talking about them wanting to tear it down. The fact that they could go, well, we just had Jack Eichel 2nd overall, and we just had Rasmus Dahlin over our 1st overall, but, we're going to fire sale and just pick up some more. I'm glad that there's talks about this actually finally being able to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the league just has to find ways to make it so they can screw the Wings, because it is customary.
When there's a will, there's a way.
There's going to be like a little...
Bettman's like, this all sounds really good, but how about we take this little winged wheel logo and we just throw it in the trash?
Good shot, sir.
Like, oh my God, genius.
You've done it again, Gary.
And then there's that one guy. What if we don't screw the Wings? And then he gets thrown through the window like that one.
The meme, he jumps out the window. They throw him out the window. Herbal meme.
Oh man. We'll see what happens. This is preliminary talks. I'm sure.
The whole goal of this was the league is at its best across the league, not just for a couple teams, but it's at its best when there is parity, real parity across the league. It's the reason we have a salary cap. It's the reason that the draft lottery is in the effect that it is. I think that the structures put in place are going to help with parity, getting rid of, going from 15 to 10, getting some of these restructurings. You want to see teams that are struggling jumpstart their rebuilds and get moving forward and getting that talent, but you also don't want to reward people doing bad because of product. This makes the most sense. I'm curious to see what the finished product looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. The league wants to prevent tanking. This still helps prevent tanking. It makes it so that the teams that really need the help can get the help. And the limitation on the number of times they can jump in the lottery being limited literally prevents tanking. You can't do it at that point because you know what? You only get to do it twice and then no. But I think that's pretty much it for our show tonight. I mean, it's a bit of a long one. There was a lot of news to talk about this week. Just a lot going on in the league and a couple of big changes potentially moving forward. With that being said, though, we appreciate everyone who has tuned into the show, whether it be watching or listening, regardless of what platform you're on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's on SoundCloud, YouTube, whatever you're on. We appreciate you guys checking out the show, giving us your time. If you want to get in touch with us, there are plenty of ways to do that. You can find us on Twitter at StickBladePod. You can find us on SoundCloud, Stickblade Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere right now. So feel free to get in contact with us however you want. At the end of the day, this is a fan cast. It is a show by fans for fans. There's no corporate sponsors. There's no advertising or anything like that. So we really like to engage with you guys and, do and put stuff out that you guys enjoy. And this is a show for you guys. So feel free to get in contact with us. We always enjoy having fan content on the show. But with that being said, I'm your host for Jordan Linscott, and I was joined by my co-hosts, David Barnhouse, Tim Stompanato, and Nick LePage. Everybody, you all stay safe, take care of each other, and take care of yourselves. And in the meantime, let's enjoy some more hockey. Go Blackhawks, go Red Wings, and everybody just have a good week, and we'll catch you here next episode.
Go Hawks.
Hockey.
Go
Hawks.